Right, I think that's enough putting off things. I don't know why, but my earphones aren't connecting, so hopefully the music's there. I don't actually know. I can't actually listen to anything. Anyway, how's everyone doing? How is everyone doing? It's been a long time. It's been a very long time. Let's see who's here. We've got a few new faces. Mr. Roboto, Damascus Everglades, Thomas Jormungand, Alexander Romero, Tori Winters. Thanks all for coming. Thank you all for coming. It's always nice to have new people here. And we've got like 27 people watching. Damn. Right, so hopefully everyone can hear me. Everyone can hear music. Right? Everyone can hear music. Timer has been started, Jormungand has said. Right? Can everyone hear me? Are we all good? Are we all good? I'm going to try another pair of headphones in a minute because I'm going to rush off in just a minute. But for some reason, the earphones that you normally use aren't connecting to this computer. So the other pair just needs to charge, and then I'll be able to get going. Am I saying something? What am I saying? Everyone can hear me? See it from Discord. God knows how to change the display name. I think on YouTube you just kind of have to take it. Like, I wanted to change my display name to my Discord display name, but I'm just Jake England. We can hear you. Perfect. Everyone can hear me. So, first things first, we're going to go through the LDO kit in a minute. Now, just so you all know, this is a prototype kit, so there are definitely things that are wrong with it. Like, I definitely know for a fact that the heater inserts that came with the kit are wrong. They're not the Voron spec ones. So they're the ones that we respect for the V1.5s. And the V1.5 ones are more expensive. So what LDO asked me to do was it asked me to design for the Voron parts, which I did. But then they forgot to send Voron inserts with the kit. Hello everyone, Christmas in September. Yes, Christmas time. Right. I have opened up the kit just a little bit, just to make sure that things were all right and nothing broke, because the box looked really rough when it arrived initially. But we are just going to go straight into things with the CNC parts. So first thing I'm going to pull out is the new plate. All right, and these things are chunky. So this new plate for V2, this is both V2 Miley and V2 Milo. Just in case you didn't know, you can build both different machines from the same kit. The only difference is a belt, which I think is in one of the boxes, and a coupler. And then you can build whatever style machine you want from that. So the plate is 10 mil thick. It is anodized aluminium. They say it's down to a flatness tolerance, but I'm not sure whether or not to trust it, because the original LDO plates were all right on some, not great on others. And then we've got the XY plate. So same thing again. The XY plate is machine agnostic, so these work with both the V2 Milo and V2 Miley. Now these are also backwards compatible with V1.6 if you want the V1.6 ones. And then I think these are the Z plates. Yeah, so these are the Z plates. So the idea with the Z plates is it just makes trammability a little bit easier to do. So you've got your actual mounting points here, all along the center for the spindle mount. And then this plate itself mounts in front of this plate using the four most outer bolts. Hey, brisket. All right, so the four most outer bolts have one shoulder bolt on each side. And then if you need to slide it left or right just a little bit, you can do that by loosening these four off instead of having to muck around with the original mount, because the original mount, not going to say it wasn't great because it did its job. What do you want? Huh? But it could have been a lot better. And then we've got V2 FMJs by the looks of it. So, ooh. So unfortunately, I couldn't get the V1.5 FMJs to work with V2. And it's mostly just because of the way the y-axis attached to the rest of the build. Sorry, the z-axis attached to the y-axis. Be gone. So on the V1.5 FMs, there was a little bottom piece that attached to the y-axis, and that's technically stiffer. It is technically a more rigid design to do it that way, but you lose the ability to tram about the y-axis as easily, and about the x-axis as well. So this decision, yes, it's less rigid, but doing it this way allows us to have a lot more quality of life stuff. So those are looking nice. As always, LDO does do a pretty good job with making these parts look absolutely fabulous. Now, question for you all. Would you rather the fixture plate come in this gunmetal gray, or would you rather it come with a completely different color scheme? Right? I know LDO likes to do random ass colors for like extrusions and things like that, but it's going to be, we're not quite at Voron level with the production run size. So it's one of those things where we need to kind of pick one color. So if everyone wants to put their favorite color in here, and then I can tell LDO what color they want these to be, whether or not you want it to be black, gray, unanodized, or even something funky like purple. Isn't the color going to be scraped off eventually anyways? That's only if you crash it. It's only if you crash it. If you don't crash it, then the color stays the same the whole time. All right, what's in this box? So it looks like LDO is actually supplying a touch probe this time, so you don't need to buy a touch probe if you're going with the kit. They have way covers. So these way covers are for the rear extrusions. Now, I'm not sure if LDO's done it already. I don't think they have. Actually, I can... Oh, it looks like they have. So these normally come in around about 200 mil size. You only need, I think, 160, going off the top of my head. And it looks like they've already cut them to width for you. But they come with two kind of rigid plastic inserts on the ends. If it was me building the kit, and it will be me building this kit, I would cut these parts off. They add just too much thickness to the ends, so I would slice these bits off entirely and then just replace them with some double-sided tape, which is how they actually get mounted anyway. So I'd cut the rigid bits off so that they can press a bit further. You will probably still need to cut them down to size. With color anodized plates, you really want to have fun with first scratches. I'd stay with the natural look. Yeah! But it's funky colors, man. Who doesn't want funky colors? Can you imagine if they... Actually, no. Is that possible? Can you tie-dye anodize? I know it's a really weird thing to think about. Can you tie-dye anodize? You probably could. Give it a rainbow. Yes, a rainbow. It looks like the LDO kit. I'm not sure if the original V1.5 kit came with them, but you've got the little plastic carriage holders, the one that the MGN-15 sit on when you're not using them. You can print them if you don't want to. Make it from titanium and hit it with some heat. No, because titanium has awful, awful dampening properties. At least with aluminium, you've got some mass there. The first thing I did with my Voron was crash the nozzle into the build plate and scrape nice long chunks. Yeah, I've replaced my Trident build plate like 15 times. I'm not even joking when I say 15 times. I've just had that many crashes. Hey, buddy. Are you all anxious for some reason? Yeah, is it because of the thunder from earlier? Yeah, it is, isn't it? At the moment, it's got an Elegoo Centauri carbon bed in there. Right. So these are the belts and pulleys you'll need for the Milo build. Sorry, Miley build. Again, these are the only things that are different between Milo and Miley. Of course, the printed parts are different, but in terms of kit hardware, this is the only thing that's different. I have a Miley already on the floor over there, so I'm not going to build a Miley. I'm going to build a Milo. All right. Ooh. Why is there? Ooh. So the old couplers that LDO sent with V1.6 kits were quite chunky. I don't have any to show you. They were quite chunky. It looks like they've slimmed them down a little bit, which isn't a bad thing. It means less issues with bolts hitting extrusions and not being able to move the axes, which did happen when I was building the 1.6. A stealth changer will prevent you from scratching the build plate. Also works as a better version of tap. How is a stealth changer going to stop you from crashing into the bed? Time is up, right? Time is up. Everyone, scram. So we have moved entirely over to inductive end stops. So we've now got inductive end stops for all the axes, but, and hopefully LDO does supply them. These look like actually pretty decent ones, right? But I will say that on the y-axis, if you're a speed freak and you like to home the y-axis really quickly, I would not use the inductive end stops just for the y-axis, and I would actually use the extra one, the extra end stop, the extra normal clicky end stop that the kit should come with. If it doesn't come with it, I'm going to tell LDO to do it. All right? Bane of my existence from V1.5 was locking collars. I've got no hands today. It's been so long since I streamed. This was years ago and it was just a daft mistake hitting home. Yeah, that happens. So these are the split collars that LDO sends. Split collars are so much nicer because you don't need to worry about whether or not you're lined up specifically with a thread. Because the ones that I spec for V1.5, if you didn't line them up properly, they would actually dig into the thread of your lead screw and come out of place, which is really annoying. They've added grease nipples. Now, the reason they've got grease nipples is because they're actually, the new anti-backlash nuts do have a little grease port for them. You can't really get at the grease nipples once they're installed, but it's nice that they have them. I'll say that. It's nice that they have them so that they're easier to fill up prior to assembly. We've got all the bearing blocks, sorry, all the bearings. Thank God we got thrust bearings finally, and we still got a few 608s, but much less than we had in V1.5, and they now are set up properly. Brass inserts, magnets. Oh, perfect. LDO did actually do it. So this is what I mean. On the y-axis, the inductive probe is facing straight up and it's registering off one of the carriages. If the carriage moves too quickly, what can end up happening is you end up crashing the whole y-axis into the Z column if you're moving too quickly. So there is an option on there that if you want to home really quickly, you can use an end stop instead. I'm also really far away from you guys. You can barely see anything, can't you? There we go, that's better. Can we use closed loop stepper motors? Yeah, you can use closed loop stepper motors. The thing is with closed loop stepper motors is you've got to trust your motion system, right? Because if you've got closed loop stepper motors that aren't using glass scales, if they're just using rotation, then if your steps per millimeter are off, if you've got backlash, if you've got anything in that system that would cause a normal reading to be bad, then having closed loop steppers isn't going to do anything for you, right? So you need to make sure that your motion system is set up properly, your steps per millimeter set up properly, and you can trust the entire movement of the axis before the closed loop steppers are there, and then you can trust the closed loop steppers. But what are closed loop steppers actually going to do for you in this case? Because all they really do on a CNC machine is alert you if there's been a crash. Sorry, no, it's alert you if they've stalled, not necessarily if it's been a crash. Because if there's been a crash and that spindle and your spindle's managed to handle it and still end up cutting, closed loop steppers don't detect that, right? The only thing that they're going to do is they're going to alarm and they're going to stop the operation that you were doing. It might save you a little bit of stock, but most of the time, the reason your steppers have stalled in the first place is because you've had a crash. And if you've had a crash, your part's probably not salvageable anyway. So in this case, in CNC's case, there's really not much of a benefit to closed loop steppers. If it was closed loop servos, where they have the little battery inside the servo cable that holds position for you, yeah, that's great. Those would be good because they continuously hold position. So you don't need to home when you start the machine back up. So there's benefit to it. Closed loop steppers don't have as much benefit as people think they do. Yes, they have benefit, but they're not as beneficial as people think they are. The moment you power down a closed loop stepper, you're going to have to home it again, because just by the nature of how steppers work, once you get power again, you're going to have to home it. Right. What's in this box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's that from? Where he finds his girlfriend's bit. Oh, oh, oh. Stepper motors. Speaking of stepper motors, we've got some fun stuff here. So, on Milo, and pretty much any mill, any column style mill, the y-axis is a big issue because it's the one that holds the most weight. It holds the x-axis and all the way to the y-axis, and then the z-axis is fighting gravity the whole time. All right? So we have 3 separate steppers, one of which is for y. The biggest ones are for y and for z. And then the x-axis is the one that doesn't need to be as big. You can put the same size steppers on the x-axis as well, but you probably just won't. It's not necessary because you're going to be limited by your y-axis speeds anyway. So that's the reason we went with these ones. And it looks like LDO. These are not like steppers I've ever seen before. It looks like there's a rubber gasket to protect the inside of it. Not sure if you guys can see that. So I'll give you a comparison. So if you can see around the shaft of the stepper motor, there we go, you can see a little bit better there. Right. You can see all the way through to the stator below. Whereas on the Z or Y-axis ones, there's a rubber gasket that goes all the way around here. I don't know how much that will help. It'll probably be nice for chip ingress and things like that. Probably a good thing that it's only on the Y-axis and the Y-axis and the Z-axis. It doesn't really need to be on the X-axis because the X-axis is so protected anyway. Protect from flood coolant mods? Maybe, but then the X-axis doesn't have it, and that's the one you would probably have the most issues with when you're doing flood coolant. So I guess you could order another one of these from LDO later on down the line if you wanted to. The reason we went with the smaller stepper instead of going the big steppers for all the axes is mostly a cost thing, right? There are certain things, because V2 is so much bigger, it's such a big upgrade from V1.5 in terms of quality of life stuff. It means there's going to be a cost increase from the V1 versus V1.5. It's just going to be more expensive. It's going to seem less expensive because we're splitting up electronics and main mechanical build into 2 separate kits, but the actual total finished machine is going to be more expensive than V1.5. So small things like that, where it's not necessary to have a big motor on the x-axis, is going to help keep the cost a bit more manageable. When are you going to start building? Hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday. So Hans, who is our community manager, he's the one who does all the shorts and things like that. He films all our shorts and does all our community management, gets us all our sponsors and stuff like that. He is getting his kit either tomorrow or on Wednesday, hopefully. He was meant to get it on Sunday, but never arrived. We've got accessories here. So, like V1.5, is going to come with a set of 1, 2, 3 blocks. Now, 1, 2, 3 blocks, they're universal. They're pretty good, even the cheap ones are pretty good. And they're so useful. You literally use them every single day, even for things that aren't CNC. It's the same dial test indicator from the V1.5 kit. Same one as before. So you can do your tramming with that if you need to. We got shims like the V1.5 kit. Except there's 3 different sizes this time. I didn't get 3 sizes last time. So we got 0.1 millimeter. Sorry, 0.01, 0.1, and 0.05 by the looks of it. It's nice. And then this is a huge upgrade, right? This is something we didn't have last time, and I really like this. I kind of giggled when I got it this morning. It was great. So I've had magnetic stands before. If you don't know what a magnetic stand is, this is a magnetic stand. You use it to connect your dial indicators and things to a stand, and it magnetizes to anything that's obviously ferrous and can be magnetic. Now this one's big, and it doesn't connect to carriages, to MGN15 carriages. Whereas what LDO supplies is teeny tiny by comparison, and that should fit on an MGN15 carriage if you want to use it to dial in any of your axes. So I'm glad that they included this in the kit this time. I'm very glad that they included those in the kit. Last of the accessories, we've got some gauge pins, some collets. I don't know why they've included 2 sets of gauge pins. In the first run of Milo parts, they included a 10mm gauge pin, and that was not great because it was too big to fit in the collets that they sent out. They've now included the 6mm one, which is way more appropriate, and you can use this for so many different things. I'm going to ask them to remove this gauge pin because gauge pins are expensive. They're like a tenner each for the cheap ones, and for a tool that you're only going to use sparingly, I think get rid of the 10mm one, keep the 6mm one, and just sack the rest of it off. In terms of end mills that came with the kit, it's the same as the stock ones that came with the 1.5 kits. So 2 single flute 3mm, 3, is it 3? A ball nose end mill, and then 2 single flute 6mm, and then a chamfer bit. These chamfer bits are awesome. The fluted chamfers are awesome. The rest of the end mills, I think they're a little expensive. If I was buying the kit myself, I would want an option that comes without the end mills, because you can buy cheaper ones that are just as good in other places. But that being said, having end mills for someone who's just starting out having them come with the kit is nice. But then again, like I said, I've got a million of them. How much roughly is the kit? I have no idea. I have no idea. LDO has not released the price for me just yet. I can tell you it's going to be more expensive than the V1.5 kit. It's going to be more expensive than the V1.5 kit. That's all I know at this point in time. All right. Next up, exactly the same as V1.5. A Shylin spindle. So these come with not V1.5, 1.5 kilowatt spindles. Now I have ripped one of these apart in the past. For a Chinese spindle, they're not bad. So even if you're in the US, if you're in the US, you're probably going to get a different spindle to this, but still better than most spindles that are out there. And you're also going to get a different VFD. I want one. My apartment is smaller than your place. Yeah, you say that. If you've noticed, this is where my casa used to be. It doesn't exist here anymore. I've now moved it to a container, so all my CNC stuff, and eventually all my resin printers as well, will be moved over to a container, a solar-powered container. And the reason I want to move it all to a solar-powered container is A, because I don't like brisket being in the room when I'm printing minis. And B, I need some more space. I have literally started putting boxes and things in my living room that I have to hop over every time I come back from work. It was getting too much. I needed some space to move some stuff. And it means that I can focus on turning this room into a print farm, because I've opened up a kind of print farm business, like a side hustle recently, and that's been kind of taking a lot of my machine time up. So having a dedicated space for the print farm has been nice. Right, I'm not going to open this up because I know exactly what these are. These are the TR8x8 lead screws. I don't want them to come out in protective packaging because they bend very easily. And I think everything else in here is extrusions. Oh, and rails. Mine is getting less extrusion and epoxy granite. Yeah, having a personal makerspace makes a lot of sense. So at the moment, the guys that I'm renting, the company that I'm renting my container off of, are the same guys who we rented the warehouse off of last year. It was over a year ago now. And obviously we lost that place because we lost a bunch of money because I got hacked and I was dumb, but we'll move on from that. So we lost that place, and they were really, really nice. They let me set solar panels up on top of it. So I got 400 watts of solar up on the top of that container, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you add 2 EcoFlow batteries to it, you then get over 2 kilowatts of output and 2 kilowatt hours of actual storage, which is way more than enough to run Milo for an hour and a half, and hopefully I'm not doing any cuts that are more than an hour and a half long, so it all works out. Will the guidance still be removed? Will the guidance still be to remove the carriages for V2 assembly? Yes. Yes, it will. And there's a particular reason for that, and it's to do with the features that are built into the XY plate. You can't really get away with mounting without taking the carriages off now, unfortunately. If you want to use that system. If you still want to use the other system, raise method, for mounting carriages, that will work. You just can't use the inbuilt alignment features anymore. Pick your own adventure. Is that enough for a mini mill? Yeah, yeah. Because at max, the spindle is 1.5 kilowatts, right? The rest of the system in its entirety only pulls about 200 watts. Now, when you're actually cutting, you're rarely ever pulling more than 800 watts, even on deep cuts, because you're limited mostly by the rigidity of the machine. Once the rigidity of the machine becomes an issue, you can't pull more than a certain amount of power from the spindle anyway, right? So 1.5 kilowatts of, sorry, 2 kilowatts of output from the battery is enough. I can probably get 3 hours of mill time, of actual in-cut mill time with the batteries I have. If it's a sunny day and I'm getting the full 400 watts of power in, I could probably bump that to about 5 hours of actual working time. Mills don't pull that much power. They're obviously more than a 3D printer, but my Bamboo Labs printers pull 1.2 kilowatts when they're heating up. Obviously that goes down by quite a lot, but like I can run my Bamboo printers fine from the same battery. Absolutely fine. I'm converting my old pig pen into... You had a pig pen? Why did you have a pig pen? Well, bugger, remove mine straight from the cardboard tube and binned it. Lead screws now sat safely on the floor. Yeah, I've had so many horror incidents and issues with lead screws bending on me, and they're just a pain. It's just a pain to deal with. Hey Jose, how you doing, bud? Have you guys tried different thread pitches for larger closed loop steppers? I'm planning on using the CAD files FFK ball screw, but I'm wondering if I can benefit from different thread pitch. So here's the thing you need to worry about. If you go down in thread pitch, your resolution increases. So if you go from 8 mil to 4 mil, you're effectively doubling your resolution. But you're also halving your speed. Your steppers can only spin so much before they run out of torque. And if they run out of torque at, say, 2000 RPM, and that's the same RPM that you need to be able to do 2000 millimeters per minute, which is typical if you want to run 2 or 3 flute tooling, well, then you're now running those tools at a significantly reduced torque. So there's a big risk of you ending up not having enough torque to do cuts properly. That was the problem we had with the 8 mil ball screws. The ball screws span so fast that there was no torque left in the steppers. So anytime you tried to do anything more than single flute tooling, the machine stalled. If you were doing just single flute tooling and you're going 800 millimeters a minute, it was fine. But if you ever wanted to go any faster than that, it was an issue. You can get around that issue by getting bigger steppers, but you can only really go so big, especially if you want to fit in Casa, where the limit for the X-axis motors is, I think, 78 mil, sorry, it's 72 or 78 millimeters. I can't remember the size off the top of my head. So if you go too low with the thread pitch, you gain that resolution, but you limit yourself in terms of what feed rates you can do, and that limits how many different kinds of end mills that you can use, etc., etc., etc. You can go in the opposite direction, which is what Hans has done. Hans has now got 1210 ball screws. So the lead is 10 millimeters rather than the 8 millimeter lead that you have with the screws that are typical on Milo. He had to mod his. He has to cut into hardened steel to be able to mod them. And Milo's not capable of that, so it's a hard mod to do. But it does mean that he can get much faster feed rates, but his resolution is cut down a little bit. I built an epoxy granite Casa and screwed myself on space. Wait, you have an epoxy granite Casa? Why? So having the larger steppers is almost a must for a mini ball screws to work properly. Yes, I'd even go as far as to say if you want the ball screws that badly, ignore steppers entirely and go straight to servos, because servos drop off torque much later in their RPM range. So instead of losing all torque at 2000 RPMs, a servo might be able to go all the way up to 3000 RPM before losing the amount of torque that it needs. Right. Oh, these extrusions are way bigger than I remember. Remember, the last Milo I built, the last V2 I built, was a year ago at Smurf. So yeah, I've been doing all the documentation, cleaning up the CAD, stuff like that, but I haven't built one in nearly a year. So this is gonna be fun. It's always an experience whenever I get to build an LDO kit, because everything's a bit older in my mind. It's not as fresh, and I need to remind myself of why I did certain things. Yes, resonance. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea to fill your casa with epoxy, but it's a case of when you move out of your flat eventually, you're going to have to move half a ton of casa. And can you deal with that? All right, one of these. So here's another issue I know about this kit. So you might be able to see along this extrusion, there's a bunch of holes for blind joints, right? Now that's fine if you're building Miley, but if you want to build Milo, these need to be up here. So I'm gonna have to drill these up a little bit because they've got holes in the wrong places. They need holes in this channel and this channel to be compatible with most machines. Just got an old pig pen and converted to a workshop. Oh, nice. It weighs probably 1,000 pounds and I had to use a crane to lift it. What kind of workshop do you have, Tia? Sorry, that's not Tia. That's Trevor. What kind of workshop do you have? Because I don't have a crane sitting about. In order to drill those holes on Milo, we're gonna need another Milo. Hell yeah. Of course, why do you think I have 2 other Milos? God. What did you think this was, Ella? Amateur hour? Now, there are some people in this world who think everything is about size. There's some people who think that everything is about size, but sometimes all you need is a tiny extrusion. All you need, right? Gentlemen, sometimes this is all you need. Right? Don't mock it. Don't mock it. This is what true performance looks like. This is what true performance looks like. Don't be intimidated by it. I'm sure one day it will happen to you. That's pretty big if you ask me. It's a whole 2 inches. It's a whole 1.5 inches. I mean, I think it's more about average. Hey buddy, are you okay? Right, so that is everything that was in the boxes. It's not a complicated kit. It's really not. There's some nice stuff that I think has been added to the kit. The extrusions are up to LDO's normal standards, right? Everything is well anodized, even on the cut sides. Everything's, I'm hoping, the right size. All the drills are in the right place, except for one extrusion, which they are aware of. We will tell them about these. These holes need to be on both sides, in both channels on both sides. Where they are now is all right for Miley, but they need to be on the other side if we want to build Milo. which is the plan, right? Like I said, I've got a Miley down there. I want to make sure that I get a Milo built, and then I also need to build a casa. I need to take my casa, because it's currently in my living room, take it to my container, rebuild that so it's up to revision 3, because revision 3 is now almost done on the design side. So I need to get that up to standard for revision 3, stick Milo in it once it's built. Once Milo's in there, I can start making some stuff for Atlas, because Atlas is something that has just got me so excited recently. I want Atlas to be done. I want to start actually doing stuff with it. LDO extrusions are always stellar. How is scratch resistant are those? All right, we can test that. We have an end mill. Carbide end mill. Get all the way in. Get all the way in. Is that as far as it will go? Right. Nothing. Pretty good. I'd say they're pretty good. They're pretty well anodized. Pretty well anodized. Pretty scratch resistant. I'm absolutely going to be here for the build to check out how you're aligning those drill holes on Milo. Don't worry. Those drill holes make life easier. They don't actually need to be there, but they make your life so much easier because it's a butted blind joint. It's not an end-to-end blind joint like you would typically have. It's a butted blind joint like that. The reason we have those holes is because you overscrew your bolts into that hole so that when you slide your butt joint on, it doesn't move them out of place. That's the only reason those holes are there. If you want to go through the pain and the misery of aligning the two extrusions, getting them perfectly flat, and then pressing each T-nut into the right place and trying to get it all done, you don't need those holes. If you want to make your life easy, drill those holes. Right. Compared to Misumi extrusions, I don't think they're in the same league. Good, in a good or a bad way. Are LDO ones better or worse? I've never actually gotten anything from Misumi. The reason Misumi's popular in the boron space, I think, is because Misumi makes the nicest T-slot extrusions. They make the nicest T-slot extrusions. And you need T-slot extrusions for borons because they use MGN9 rails for the Z-axis. And MGN9 rails will slip into the middle channel on V-slot extrusion. So that's the only reason I think the T-slot from Misumi got popular. Obviously, Misumi's been around for a while and they do make a nice product and stuff like that. But within the kind of DIY 3D printing space, the Misumi ones got popular because of the reason that they made a decent product that were MGN9 compatible. Whereas we use MGN15s for everything, for all axes. So V-slots aren't a problem, and V-slots tend to be a little bit cheaper as well, and they tend to be made by a lot more people. Neat, so alignment isn't too important. No, they're oversized, so you technically need an M5 hole for them. I think I spec them to be M6 or M6.5, so there's enough wiggle room in there so that you can get everything straight and flat. What I'm going to do is when we get around to building the X-axis, I am actually going to take it out once we've slid everything on, go to my cooktop, put the little glass lid down on my cooktop and align everything so it's nice and flat. But that's going to take like 20 seconds on stream. Either that or I'm just going to do it off stream. It'd be nice if there was resistant scratching, to be honest, especially with metal chips flying over it. Yeah, well, it's a mill. It's a mill. right? You're gonna get scratches on it. This is why I just print my own extrusions. I wish that was a thing. I remember when I got my first 3D printer, it was a CR10. It was a CR10S, was it an SE? The one with a big side box? And I wanted to build my second printer. I wanted to build an H-bot, and I decided that I was gonna 3D print all the extrusions for the H-bot out of PETG. That didn't go very well. I think I made one extrusion and realized how brittle it was because layer lines. Although fair to use the edges of blade to open the package, so perhaps judging ooze nest too harshly. Ooze nest extrusions. Ooze nest is nice when you're doing prototyping. They're really nice when you're doing prototyping because you can just order everything precisely cut to length. You don't need to worry about it, and you can order tapped holes and things like that, even though I think the tapped holes are really expensive for what they are. Their quality of extrusions, however, has something to be desired. The walls are thinner than most V-slot extrusion I've ever bought. They tend to be a lot more twisted than anything I've ever got from LDO or even AliExpress dealers in the past. The anodizing is paper thin. I'd say less than paper thin. It rubs off so easily. I've given ooze nest extrusions a good rub and the anodizing has come off. But if you are prototyping, they are convenient. Here we go. For me, it's durability. I do like the machine to not look like it's been through a war. Yeah, I get that. I also get that. I understand why people want the durability for it. But at the same time, when you have casa full of chips and the chips have got through every single extrusion and they're in every single channel and there's no making a mill look pretty, which is why I've decided to embrace that fact and we're doing a black and white build. I want every bit of grime to wipe off on the white parts and look industrial as fuck. All right? If I have oily hands or greasy fingertips, I am rubbing it on all the white bits. I am making it its own color. You will have forgotten that Milo was black and white in 2 or 3 months after I started using it. Tory Winters, yeah, they weren't expensive. It's like £180 all in for the Milo. Are those for the Milo V2 parts from Ooze Nest? Yeah, it's not bad. Ooze Nest isn't bad. They're just not. They're all right for the price. I don't mind tapping my own extrusions as well. I do it on pretty much everything I have. Just so you know, the original prototype was for this. Didn't have any tapping done on it. I did every hole by hand. Every single hole.
It took me 2.5 hours.
I hated it. It was great. Oh, you poor sod. Yeah. Yeah. I did the same thing on the original Continental Breakfast plate that came with the V1.5, which was bigger. It was bigger. There was more holes on that too. You look very English when you say that. What does an English person look like? Just sad and dejected. The soul sucked out of your eyes. Leave me alone, Jormungand. You bully me every stream. Every stream. Oh my god, having that many holes. Yeah. Don't know if I still have it. I have the original V1.3 fixture plate that I made as well somewhere. It was similar in size to that one. I tapped every hole on that, and between every tapped hole, there was also a reamed hole, but I didn't have a mill that was capable of reaming, so I hand reamed all of those as well. So I have my experience. You know I love you. Well, Brisket anyway. Yeah. Brisket is farting a lot at the moment. I am trying my best to keep a normal face, but I am being gassed here. And it's not going well. Now, I'm probably going to give away at least the spindle. Either sell them or give them away. Either the spindle and the VFD, because I have extra ones. I have the one that is already in my casa, and that's already programmed up, and I don't need to worry about it. And I have an extra spindle because LDO sent me like 3 of these at this point. So if anyone wants this, just contact me through Discord, and I'll see what I can do about sending it over. But I don't need them. Now, there is one thing that has not been added to the kit that I'm going to ask LDO to add to the kit. So you may notice that on these parts here, so there are multiple different sizes and different styles of the printed mounts. So there's a half plate design, which is what this one is, a full plate, which has 2 slots for HOIs, and then a no plate version. So the no plate version is just the printed one. It's just the standard one. I think LDO thinks that that's the one I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting it. I'm suggesting to at least have the half plate one designed. So if LDO decides that they don't want to add 1 more CNC or 2 more CNC parts to the kit, I'd say find someone on the Discord who has a Milo and get them to mill one out for you, because it's a huge upgrade. And it's not even that expensive. Well, it's not that expensive if you exclude all the labor it takes. I can't tag you on Discord, lol. Fair enough. Do you need a timer? I'll do a timer. Do a timer, why not? Do a timer. I was thinking, oh god, cutting might be 1.5 extrusions to have 2 little notches for ball screws is taking long. Oh, looks like 50 minutes. I am fortunate enough to work in an engineering company which I program and set CNC machines, so I may use it for private to build the Milo. Nice. Yeah, stuff like that. If you work in a CNC factory, I'd wait until Atlas, because Atlas is going to have so many CNC parts, all of which are going to fit on a V2. The whole point of Atlas is every single part will fit on a V2. V2 Milo. I'm not sure if it's going to fit on a V2 Miley, but yeah. So if you are looking, if you have access to proper big CNC machines, I would wait until Atlas. I need 2 of them. I've only got 1. I've only got 1 I need to give away, because one of them I still need for this build. The other is already on my Miley, and I do want to keep my Miley as well. I thought it was mandatory to make your own HOIs as the first cut. It's a fun project, and I think it's a good way to get started, but we had a lot of pushback around that, because it meant retramming your machine, getting everything set up again, throwing away a big print that was like, this one's only in our semi-structural setting, because it doesn't need to be the fully structural one if you've got HOIs. And this was 400 grams of ABS. So like throwing 400 grams, well, plus the other side, so about 800 grams of ABS away just to put an HOI on didn't sit well with a lot of people. So I'm going to be recommending that you go straight to at least 1 HOI, because what you can do is, if you want to put 2 HOIs on here, which is also a good idea, you can print the full plate version, install the first HOI, and then also mill one out, and then put the second HOI that you've milled in the second slot. Half a spool of filament wasted. Yeah, well, filament's so cheap nowadays. Like, ABS is so cheap nowadays, right? Like, the spool of filament that this came from, right? ABS is all right. Most ABS nowadays is all right. It's like PLA back in the day where you had shitty PLA and then PLA got good again. Most ABS is fine nowadays. This stuff's fine. This was £8.99 for a full spool, right? I don't mind wasting that. I know it sounds weird, but I don't mind paying £8.99 and then printing it again if I need to. But I am a weird one here, and I recognize the rest of the community isn't like me. Anyone on here make them and sell? Hans, I'm pretty sure Captain Hans is setting up a shop for them. Once I get the print farm set up and this kit built, I am going to be offering them on my store as well. Most of what I do on my store is just for my local gaming companies. So that's all 3D printed parts, but I'll probably offer some HOIs and things like that on the store as well once they're all set up. It's another reason for the store is to actually handle the money that we were getting as donations, because currently it's just going straight into a private bank account, and I'm getting to the point where I'm gonna start having to declare tax on it because I'm over the threshold. I'm so close to being over the threshold for how much I can earn without paying tax. So having that company means that I can process all those payments, especially when V2 payments come through from LDO, hopefully come through from LDO. So having that company there means that I can do that as well. eSun ABS hasn't worked well for me. The Ambrosia stuff prints beautifully. It's just so brittle from eSun. Yeah, the eSun stuff is, I've not had bad times with it, but I know a lot of people have. I seem to miss all the shit from eSun. Like, again, I've said this on stream before, my print room is like 27 degrees on a cool day, and it went up to 36 the other day. So I have an ambient temperature in this room good enough to print most ABS parts. And then all my printers are enclosed on top of that. So I don't tend to have issues printing ABS. You guys try out LDO ABS/ASA. I've heard it's not bad. I like the color of it. It's almost a Makita blue. And I like that Makita blue. I wish I could find a local supplier that does like a Makita blue. I know 3D, is it 3D.0? Yeah, I think they make a matching color for Makita. 30C is not good enough for ABS, yes, but that's the room temperature. Can you imagine what temperature it is inside the enclosures on my printers? And it also means that that heat isn't being wicked out as much, because when you've got a colder room, even if you've got an enclosure, if you've got a cold room, that heat gets wicked outside of it gets wicked away from the chamber. That's why a lot of the Bamboo Labs and Elegoo Satori carbons, one of the reasons they don't get as hot as the Vorons, as my Voron, for example. So my Voron has a bigger chamber, but it doesn't have that big hole out the side of it, and it's not got a metal, it's not got metal panels. The moment you add a metal panel to a 3D printer, it just conducts that heat outside. Whereas having polycarbonate panels, yes, there's a bit of conduction that does happen, but I have no chamber heater in here, and I can get up to 83 degrees. Whereas I have insulation on all my other printers just to stop them from wicking heat out, and I have plugs for all the big holes on them so that they're not losing heat through those holes. So like, I don't have a poop chute on any of my printers anymore, not a functional one at least. And those struggle to get past about 45-ish. So, and that's mostly to do with the fact that they have either glass or metal side panels, because those side panels just absorb that heat and spread it outside the room, outside the chamber. Wonder if we could coax DMS to get some more vivid pink ASC. Yeah, probably. I think Dave has. I think Dave is pretty much sold out of the Ambrosia stuff. But if you're looking for a vivid pink and you don't want to wait for the Ambrosia, there's what's it called? Printy Please in the UK. I've got some test parts here actually that I can show you somewhere. Printy Please in the UK sells, he calls it cat yarn, and it's a sparkle ABS. It's like £19 a roll, but it's really nice. It's lovely. I really like this stuff. Let's stop. Let's not zoom in too much. This stuff is great. Oh, if you don't know what these are, I've got a Micron build that I'm half working on. Shout out to Fabreeko. Hector from Fabreeko sent me one of the partial LDO kits for the old version of the Micron, and I need to bring it up to speed so it's compatible with the new Micron. But I want to do a bunch of CNC parts on that too, and bring it to true Smurf and potentially Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival next year. So as just a showpiece to show people what you can do with CNC parts, even for 3D printers. I've been trying Spectrum 275 ASA, which advertises no warp very strongly, and I have to say, so fact, it really is different. Oh, nice, nice. Again, I'm not very technical when it comes to the resins that are used in ABS or any filament. I don't know as much as like Nero does. I know Nero goes on about a certain blend of ABS that he really, really loves. But again, I just have a hot enough room and no ABS issues with any of my printers. So I've never had any, the only time I've ever had any issues actually, now that I think of it, was with, there was a powder blue ASA that Polymaker sent me as a sponsored thing. That was the only time I've ever had an ABS part warp so badly that I couldn't use it, at least. Are you planning you are planning to come to Remurf? Hopefully next year I'd like to come to Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival, but that all depends on whether or not V2 does well. Because if we get a similar amount of money from sales that we got on V1.5, it should be enough to send me and I think at least 2 other people to the US. Where's Rocky Mountain? I know it's in the Rockies. Is it Loveville? Love something? I forget what the name is. To go to Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival and bring some stuff over and have a booth and do all that stuff. I'd really, really, really love to go, but I can't. I can't at the moment. It all depends whether or not V2 does well. Loveland, that's it. Polymaker Pop Pink was ace. The normal ASAs are dead easy. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Polymaker ASA and ABS, and I've had some good experience with this stuff. It's just that in the UK, it's slightly too expensive for me to be looking at all the time. So I only buy it when I want to do special things. It was just that one color I had issues with. Loveland, Colorado. Spartan 3D makes some nice sparkle ABS. If we don't get Spartan 3D in the UK, I've never been able to find a roll because they do a blood red that Nero uses all the time, and I love it. I want that color so badly, but they don't do it here. Also, if you need Milo V1.6, I can bring mine in my casa. That kind of stuff we will be looking at doing, because we won't be able to bring full machines with us to Colorado. So it'll be things like all our accessories, because we're really going hard on accessories at the moment. Obviously, the only machine At the end of the year, the only machine I want to be working on, the only full machine that I want to be working on is Atlas, right? Everything else is side projects. So we're working on a vacuum plate, we're working on the 4th axis, we're working on the 2 tool changers, we're working on, I don't know if Phil is still working on his vise. There's loads of stuff that we want to, there's the new pendant. There's 2 pendants I want to work on. I want to do a low-tech pendant where it's just X, Y, Z and scroll wheel. And you can choose your increments, and it's just a bunch of buttons, and it's really, really simple, dead simple, and really cheap. And then there's Lotto's is working on the full touchscreen one, which has integration with MOS, so you can do all your probing, you can do all that stuff straight from your pendant, and you don't need to access DWC almost at all, and it will be wireless. But that's obviously going to be more expensive and more of an issue to set up and stuff like that. And it's going to be MOS dependent, so every time MOS changes, we need to change the pendant firmware as well. So next year for me is going to be the year of Atlas and accessories. Atlas and accessories. Ooh, sorry, Biscuit. I have to go, got all our consultants coming to the office tomorrow, so I have a very long day ahead of me. Do stupid shit, break stuff, have fun. Thank you, Ormangan. You too, bud, have fun. Cat yarn stuff is great. It is great. I'm 15 minutes away from the event. Yeah, it's nice. We'll probably be asking a lot of people in the US, or the US contingent of Milo builders, to bring some stuff over. So bring a V1.6, bring a V2, someone bring a Casa. It'll be more of a community show-off event than anything else. And then we'll have drinks at a pub. Well, it won't be a pub in the US, it'll be a bar afterwards, like a community thing. Kind of like a mini Vice, but instead of it being just Millennium guys, it'll be everyone who's just interested in the project. Can you put up an animation of the differences between Milo and Miley and Milo? A short video or brochure showing improvements over V1.5, V1.6 that Academic Creator and at Steve Build, I think, built. Yeah. I won't do an animation because I don't know how to animate, but I can do a video on it. Sure. I wouldn't be able to do it on V1.6 because V1.6 isn't finished. So the last thing I want to do is turn around and go, these are all the differences between V1.5, V1.6, V2, and then V1.6 changes and the feature that was there or wasn't there has now completely changed. But I could do a V1.5 versus V2. That's fine. I also brew at a brewery. Of course, that makes more sense, co-brewer. So local drinks are on me. It's gotta be up to British drinking standards, though. It's got to be up to British drinking standards. If you watch the charity stream I did with Ella, were you there? I think Ella was there. With Nomad, and you'll know that I went through a whole box of Corona, like a whole 16 pack of Corona, and felt nothing. So it needs to be up to British drinking standards. Can you talk about the new alignment pins on the carriage plates? Also, new changes to the AV blocks to reduce backlash and keep it adjusted. The new AV blocks don't reduce backlash compared to V1.5. They're probably still just as good. The difference is they're self-adjusting. So instead of them being compressive, they're now in tension. And they're in tension using 2 springs. So the springs are what actually do the anti-backlash part of that. I'll make sure they'll serve you some snake bites. What the hell is snake bites? Oh, 14% stout. That sounds good. Listen, getting drunk and rowdy is important to our culture. Hell yeah! I say as someone who only drinks like 2 or 3 times a year. Awesome. Right. Where's my mouse? I've got a bunch of trash over there. There's my mouse. So, that's everything. I'm happy to just chill for a bit longer if people want to chill and chat. That's pretty much everything I wanted to say for the V2 kit. streams are probably going to be tomorrow or Wednesday. Tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on whether or not Hans gets his kit, because I do want to do a co-stream with him. I want to have two people building two versions of the machine, at least, so that way I can talk someone through how to build it and see whether or not that's the right way of approaching the project. Corona is easy to drink. I've done 16 drinks. When you think they are 1.4 standard drinks here in Australia, it's a lot of booze. Yeah. But then again, you drink schooners and down under, and schooners are only, what, 2/3 of a beer? And they're served in most pubs. So you say Aussies can drink, but you're only drinking two-thirds as much as whatever everyone else is drinking. Rochefort 10 is my hands down favorite beer. I've never had Rochefort 10, and I've never even heard of it. So I wouldn't be able to comment on that. Fingers crossed, UPS finally decides what delivery company is supposed to do what delivery company is supposed to do. Thanks for the show. Looking forward to LDO kit pre-orders. Yes, I'm so looking forward to this. I think V2, in terms of quality of life, and V1.6 by that metric as well, is going to be so worth the build. If you built a V1.5 and you thought that that was a good build, V1, V2, and V1.6 is going to shatter that reality for you. It's just so much nicer of a build to do. Soon, Jose. How are you doing today, Jose? Been a while. Been a while since I've seen you on stream. That might be because I haven't been on stream very often, but don't blame me for your misgivings. Right. Didn't actually see if there were any heat inserts with the rest of the fastens. But yeah. Schooners on the East Coast, here a pint or midi, half pint I think, on the West Coast. Only wusses drink middies. Yeah, fair. We do at the restaurant that I work at the moment, because it pays better than most engineering jobs. I get £22 an hour if I'm on certain sections. It's fucking great. I've got some debt that I need to catch up on, however. But other than that, we do a 3-pint glass. So it's 3 pints just in a really, really tall glass, and you can just have that. I'm hopefully finishing up my Sila install tonight and then milling the V1.6 plates. I have everything else I need to complete V1.6. Yeah, V1.5 to V1.6 isn't too bad. It's just printed parts. I think it's 1 coupler. You can reuse all the motors, use the whole frame, reuse all the rails, and you just need some new bearings, and that's pretty much it. I think I have some schooner glasses here, 2/3 I think, yeah. Schooners normally have a really short stem to them, and then a kind of pear-shaped, not pear-shaped, yeah, well, yeah, kind of pear-shaped glass. Hey buddy, you've just stuck your head in a hole, you know that, right? He's fast asleep. Right. He's just got his head stuck in a hole. Oh, he's a weird dog. He's a weird putt. He is not chilled. He is not chilled. His dad's a collie, and his mum was a British bulldog. So he's belligerent, like a British bulldog is, and he's energetic, like a collie is. When he's in a small, hot room, he'll chill out, but the moment we go outside, he'll be running laps all night long. Almost like a yard glass. Yeah, kinda. Keep up the great work. Thanks for all you do. Cheers, Dan. Right, I'm going to sign off now, guys. seeing that no one else is asking any questions. Thank you all for coming. As usual, makes my life so much easier when I'm on stream. Obviously, I'm out of practice a little bit. If you can hear me stuttering my words and stuff like that, that's why. Hopefully, it gets a little bit better as we start to stream a little bit more. If you do want to support the project, there are some links down in the description. It always helps. That money goes straight back into development most of the time, about 99% of the time. It means that I can buy parts for Atlas, for Milo, some for the tool changes, all that kind of stuff. And it really does help out. If you don't want to do that, however, don't worry. If you can like the video, if you can tell your friends about it, that all goes really far into making this project the best that it can be. So thank you all for coming, and I hope you all have a great night. Bye now.